New York City is sinking at a rate of 1 to 2 millimeters per year, with some areas subsiding much faster, due to the geological process of subsidence and the weight of its skyscrapers. This phenomenon poses a serious threat to the city's infrastructure, population and environment, as it worsens the effects of sea level rise and flooding caused by climate change and hurricanes. Subsidence is the gradual lowering of the land surface due to various natural or human-induced factors. In New York City, subsidence is partly caused by the tectonic movement of the Earth's crust, which is still adjusting to the retreat of massive glaciers that covered the region during the last ice age. However, subsidence is also influenced by the anthropogenic load of the city's buildings, which weigh a total of 1.68 trillion pounds, or about 140 million elephants. The weight of these skyscrapers compresses the underlying soil and bedrock, causing them to deform and sink over time. The effect is more pronounced in areas where the soil is softer and less resistant to pressure, such as Lower Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Queens. The researchers estimated that the buildings account for about 10% of the total subsidence rate in New York City. The sinking of New York City has serious implications for its resilience to coastal hazards, especially in the context of global warming. The sea level around New York City has risen by about 9 inches since 1950, and is projected to rise further by up to 6 feet by 2100. This means that more areas of the city will be exposed to storm surges, tidal flooding, and saltwater intrusion, which can damage buildings, roads, bridges, subways, and other critical infrastructure. Moreover, the frequency and intensity of hurricanes hitting New York City are expected to increase due to the changing climate. Hurricanes can bring strong winds, heavy rain, and storm surges that can overwhelm the city's drainage systems and flood defenses. For example, Hurricane Sandy in 2012 caused widespread devastation and power outages in New York City, while Hurricane Ida in 2021 triggered record-breaking rainfall and flash floods that killed dozens of people. To cope with these challenges, New York City needs to adopt more stringent building codes, improve its flood protection measures, restore its natural wetlands and marshes, and reduce its greenhouse gas emissions. These actions can help slow down the rate of subsidence and sea level rise, as well as enhance the city's capacity to recover from disasters. New York City is sinking under the weight of its skyscrapers, but it can still rise above the waves with smart planning and innovation. One of the most striking features of New York City is its skyline, dominated by towering skyscrapers that seem to defy gravity. But these impressive structures come at a cost. They are literally sinking the city. How is that possible? The answer lies in the weight of the buildings and the ground beneath them. According to a study by researchers at Columbia University, the city's buildings weigh a total of 1.68 trillion pounds, which is roughly equivalent to the weight of 140 million elephants. That's a lot of mass to put on a small island. But the island itself is not solid rock. It is made up of layers of sediment, clay, sand, and gravel that were deposited by glaciers and rivers over millions of years. These layers are not very compact or stable, and they can compress and shift under pressure. When humans build skyscrapers on top of these layers, they create a downward force that squeezes the ground and causes it to sink. The study estimated that the average subsidence rate in Manhattan is about 0.08 inches per year, which may not sound like much, but adds up over time. For example, the Empire State Building, which weighs about 365,000 tons and stands 1,454 feet tall, has caused the ground beneath it to sink by about 9 inches since it was completed in 1931. The One World Trade Center, which weighs about 450,000 tons and stands 1,776 feet tall, has caused the ground beneath it to sink by about 6 inches since it was completed in 2014. The sinking effect is not uniform across the city. Some areas are more prone to subsidence than others, depending on the thickness and composition of the ground layers. The study found that the most vulnerable areas are in Lower Manhattan, Midtown, and parts of Brooklyn and Queens. The sinking of New York City has several implications for its future. One is the increased risk of flooding from sea level rise and storm surges. As the city sinks, it becomes more exposed to coastal hazards that could damage its infrastructure and disrupt its services. Another implication is the potential damage to the buildings themselves. As the ground sinks and shifts, it can cause cracks and deformations in the foundations and structures of the skyscrapers. This could compromise their safety and stability, and require costly repairs and maintenance. The researchers suggested some possible solutions to mitigate the sinking problem. One is to reduce the weight of the buildings by using lighter materials and designs. Another is to reinforce the ground by injecting grout or cement into the gaps and pores of the layers. A third is to monitor the subsidence rates and adjust the building codes accordingly. New York City is not alone in facing this challenge. Many other cities around the world are also built on soft ground and have experienced subsidence due to human activities. Some examples are Venice, Bangkok, Jakarta, and Shanghai. The sinking of cities is a global issue that requires careful planning and management. By understanding how our buildings affect the ground beneath them, we can find ways to preserve our urban landscapes and protect them from natural disasters.